Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. I'd like to inaugurate Ethica Nicomachean, the Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle. I don't plan on doing the entire 100 plus pages, 150 pages probably. I've only done a treatment of the first 20 pages or so. And these were very possibly notes taken down by students in lectures. I mean, that's what some people say some of Aristotle's stuff is. So he does intersperse rather long sets, 3-4 different paragraphs of rather long length each. That's fairly unnecessary. So I've cut it up a bit. I've got to the good stuff through some of it here. And we're going to start page 1, book 1, paragraph 1, line 1, sentence 1. Every art and every inquiry, and similarly every action and pursuit, is thought to aim at some good. Okay? Everything that you can do aims at some good. That's what we call the end that we try to get. Fine. We skip a little ways now. As there are many actions, arts, and sciences, their ends are also many. The end of the medical art, what's the end of the medical art? Health. That of shipbuilding is a vessel. That of strategy is victory. And that of economics is wealth. So you see what he means by an end. Every art and every inquiry has something that is its end, its goal, and it is the good thing to that pursuit. So we skip a little ways further. If then there is some end of the things we do which we desire for its own sake, everything else being desired for the sake of this, and if we do not choose everything for the sake of something else, for at that rate the process would go on to infinity, right? You cannot say, well, I chose this for that, and that 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 for that. At some point you have to have something you chose them all for, or it has to come maybe at the end of the chain. He's saying you can't go on into infinity. There has to be something which victory, he named victory under strategy, victory and health, and successfully producing a vessel, and all these things aim at some other thing, one thing only. Otherwise we go on to infinity if we don't end on something. Clearly this must be the good and the chief good. Will not the knowledge of it then have a great influence on life? If we can figure out what it is that all arts and sciences try to attain. Now we skip quite a ways, skip a few pages actually. The life of money making is one undertaken under compulsion, and wealth is evidently not the good we are seeking. Some people think that selfish people, evil, selfish, greedy people just want a whole bunch of money. Why? For it is merely useful for the sake of something else, right? You have money for what? For other things. So you can't say that the ship or whatever is the reason for shipbuilding and the victory is the reason for strategy, because there's something else that they aim towards. And money is useful for getting this, finishing your ship is useful for getting this, being in good health, having victory in a battle is useful for getting this. What is it that we are after? We're going to skip a few more pages. The Platonists have not been speaking about all goods. Now, I wish there was some good way to segue into the middle of this, but he's just arguing against the Platonists who say that there is one form of the good in heaven and it shines a little bit in everything that has some good in it on earth. He says that the Platonists have not been speaking about all goods, and that the goods that are pursued and loved for themselves are called good by reference to a single form, right? While those which tend to produce or to preserve these somehow, or to prevent their contraries, are called so by reference to these in a secondary sense. Fine, put that in your pocket if you like. So, there has to be some chief good then, but the Platonists, I can't even using this form in heaven, they can't even, as he says, they have not been speaking about all goods, and the goods that are pursued and loved for themselves and so on, Okay, so clearly then, goods must be spoken of in two ways, and some must be good in themselves, and others by reason of these. Let us separate then things good in themselves from things useful. You would say, I want my boat because I can use it to get fish, and then I can eat the fish, which will make me healthy and stay alive. Well, okay, so the boat's not really, if I just hand you a boat and there's no lake or anything around, you have no use for the boat. So is the boat really what you wanted? Shipbuilding is an art that leads to the building of a boat, but what if there's not a lake? Then the boat's useless. So, he says you have to make an identification difference between I wanted this because it allowed me to do this, which it allowed me to get this, so you call the ship good, but is the ship good? It's not. It's just a thing. The good in itself is something you're going to use the ship to get. Just having the ship doesn't do you any good, does it? You've got to have the ship and be able to use it and have fish available and so on. So we skip down a bit. Let us again return to the good that we are seeking and ask what it can be. It seems different in different action and arts. It is different in medicine, in strategy, and in the other arts likewise. What then is the good of each? Surely that for whose sake everything else is done. What is the good that each one of these arts aims at? We get the art finished, and then there's something that we did that art for. Why did we do that art? The art of medicine, the art of shipbuilding. Tchaikovsky. In medicine, this is health. In strategy, it is victory, and in architecture, it is a house. In any other sphere, something else, and in every action and pursuit, the end. For it is for the sake of this that all men do whatever else they do. Therefore, if there is an end for all that we do, this will be the good achievable by action. You can't get to it any other way besides action. You can't get to it sitting around and thinking. Clearly, not all ends are final ends, but the chief good is evidently something final. The boat is an end. That's what shipbuilding is for, is to get a boat. And then shipbuilding can't tell you how to live the good life or whether or not go to church. That's not what shipbuilding does. So shipbuilding does have a good end, which is the ship, but then you're nowhere with that unless you have some other end that the ship is to be used for. And why? That's the justification for shipbuilding. Shipbuilding exists because of this, strategy exists because of this, economics exists because of this. What is this thing that is the end of all action, that all arts and sciences aim at? We call final, without qualification, that which is always desirable in itself and never for the sake of something else. We call it final without qualification. That which is always desirable in itself and never for the sake of something else. Can you name anything that you never, ever use for anything? You only want it for itself. I put the question to you. Now, such a thing, happiness above all else, is held to be. For this we choose always for itself and never for the sake of something else. But, now, that's true. There we are. Happiness. You never choose happiness for the sake of something else. And in fact, if you choose, let me give you some examples and load the paragraph I'm about to do here. If you choose honor, you choose it because it will make you happy. You will avoid certainly being a scumbag if you do a dishonorable thing. If you choose pleasure, that would lead to happiness. If pleasure didn't make you happy, then you wouldn't choose it, hopefully, unless you're very short-sighted. Reason, would we choose reason if it didn't make us happy? Would we be reasonable if happiness didn't come from it? And every virtue we choose, indeed, and here's, now I'll give you where I've gotten those. Here's Aristotle's sentence. But honor, pleasure, reason, and every virtue we choose, indeed, for themselves. For if nothing resulted from them, we should still choose each of them. Wrong, Aristotle. Wrong. Sorry about that. It's not true that we would still choose honor, pleasure, reason, and every other virtues if they didn't make us happy. They wouldn't be virtues if they didn't make us happy. So he falls off just a bit there. But other than that, he's got a pretty straight identification of what it is that all the